we're going to continue on around. From this point on, folks, there's not a whole lot to see. Obviously, the layout is cleaned up quite a bit. There's some of the paints that I've been using. I did rip out. Here's where I'm going to put some more intermediate signals right in here in this area. These are the signals that will be used. I did just get an order in of some more signals that will be going in on the layout. That is the last cantilever style signal that I have. That one also is customized. You can possibly see one of them kind of poking out on the back side there. That one is going back there where that square is back there. And that'll be the last cantilever that goes in. Looking on down the line, and this is where we kind of start to get to where I've been kind of doing a lot of storage and putting stuff at. Coming down this way, not a whole lot has changed from this point on in. Minus, obviously, there are more rail cars out. I've got an Amtrak set out here. And you might be wondering, why do you have all these cars just hanging out on your main line? I use specific, different cars as testers. Test out track, test out clearances. I'm not using any kind of computer software to write out a track plan. So I use the cars that I know that will give me the biggest fits and to see how they're going to interact with the track, if the track is good or not. This is CP Winter. And here is the double track cantilever protecting CP Winter. I want to say this is westbound, but my mind has been escaping me and I've kind of just had brain farts all today. But here's that control point here. Do have a number 8 switch coming off the main there that will, if you can kind of see off to the right there where the rest of that track is at, kind of by that white pole. There'll be some more. There'll be a smaller staging yard back in that area. And then back here at CP Amar, these cars were a part of a junk train that I had on the layout. They kind of found themselves cut away and they just rolled down the line a little bit. Some of these Walther's cars, they just literally roll so well. And they got cut off. I was kind of playing around with the trains and messing with the kids, and I got them going pretty fast, and they came uncoupled, and they just literally just took off and kept on going down the line and ended up down there in the corner. I said, you know what? That's all right. That's cool. Why not? Have a little runaway train on the main. Looking down here, I call this carpet corner because when we first bought this house, this corner had just a ton of carpet that when they replaced the carpet in the house before we bought it, they stored all the excess and unused carpet right here in this corner. So I always call this carpet corner. I'm sure I'll come up with some other name for it, but this will be where the yard is here at CP Winter, and then the control point back that way is a CP Amar. Again, not much has been done this way. I don't know if I did show it in the last video, but this track right here was a continuous loop. It kind of just straddled the inside main and it came back around. I was going to use that track as a yard turnaround track. Sorry about that. And I kind of backed off of that idea just because I wanted to get signals in, obviously. And in order to get the signals in, I needed the space where that track was at. And I didn't want to compromise myself because I did kind of cut it pretty close to the wall back there where that B and auto rack is right there. It's about maybe an inch and a half to 2 inches from the wall. And I was planning on putting in a cantilever signal, but I wanted to get in a little bit more variety and get some more bidirectional ground signals, if you will. So, plus the cantilever has been out of stock, kind of, which is what I was referring to in the beginning of the video. And so because of that, I did get some other signals, and I am planning to use those on the remainder of the layout. I can show you that here in a minute, but coming forth back right here right quick, I did do it before and after. I might just post that on Instagram because I don't know if the software on my phone will show it and do it justice. But you guys can see here where the foam is pretty dug up right through here. You kind of can see where the track line, the center line was at. When I first put this track in over here at CP Champaign, The auto racks, as I was just saying here a moment ago, I use auto racks, and even a lot of these double stack cars off this Q train, I use them as testers, and even the Amtrak cars. Of course, these are my nicer cars. I don't really want to use them as testers, but sometimes you may have to sacrifice a few to save the greater. And I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I used those cars, because when I first put this track in, my plan and intention was to use a 3-track signal bridge on this end of CP Champaign. Okay. And that would, I mean, I still want to do that, but for 2 reasons I didn't want to. One is it's a 3-track signal bridge, but I can only cross over out to in. Okay. This inside track does not need a double track, or I'm sorry, a double-headed signal, because you can't cross over. Does it really matter? Not really. The bottom head was just going to be unlit, because on these RR circuit signal LCCs, you only have so much space to drive signal heads themselves. And then obviously for the yard lead coming in here at Champaign, you don't need a dual-headed signal coming off the yard either, because you cannot cross over here. You have to come back around and cross over back here at Bandini. Okay, so initially, I mean, I did install some extra foam here on the edge to give me space to add on that 3-track signal bridge, and it was going to cover essentially right here, and this yardie was going to sneak out right under the bridge and kind of cut back in and join back in with the remainder of the yard lead back there. Okay, obviously that track is gone and more track is put in, so you can surmise that that curve was too sharp. Now, for the junk cars that are on the outside main back here, they handled it like a champ. Obviously, they're shorter cars. The couplers, they don't have to swing out as far. But for auto racks, they did not like this one right here. And in all actuality, it's mainly the FlashJonesTrains cars, because those couplers, unfortunately, they're kind of crappy. They look nice. They're, it's different color looking coupler. And, but the profile on them, you guys know what I'm talking about. The profile on those FlashJonesTrains couplers, you can kind of make it out here on the engine. The profile, as far as width of the coupler itself, is not really all that wide, so to say, in comparison to the width and girth of the KD couplers. And you guys can, and actually that's a perfect description of that right there. The width of the coupler on the engine is, a few ticks shorter in width than the width of the KD couplers. And because of that, every time those FlashJones racks would come through here and they would take this curve, obviously you guys kind of see how it comes off the main. It came off the main a little bit more straight and kind of straddled the main, and then took a nice left-hand curve and straightened out, and then to a right-hand curve. It honestly, that curve is literally less sharp than the curves on the main line, in which the auto racks handle just perfectly fine. But I'm going to guess that because the curves on the main are swooping and continuous and even super elevated, may aid and assist these cars in getting around the curves. And the curve here coming off the main is not assisted. It's just coming off of a number 4 crossover, which is a number 4 turnout, which is not really preferred for longer cars, but they do work. Don't let anyone ever tell you that these number 4s don't work. People just don't like them because they're shorter and they're more sharp. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that they're okay. All of the cars on my layout, auto racks, the double auto rack that's articulated, it handles this curve and the divergence off of this number 4 just fine. It's just not preferred. And if it's just not your preference, that's one thing. But to say that they don't work it's just not true. Nevertheless, the auto racks, and even if you guys can see back there where that XPO red, that hub group green, and the one, and this 3-piece set has a solid drawbar connection. Okay. And those cars, in addition to the auto racks, they just didn't like the way that the track was coming off. So reluctantly, I mean, I had this put down, and I mean, the track was just sexy. It looked great. It had a nice curve to it. It was a nice little S in there. It looked great. I had the gradients perfected to come off the main. As you guys can see here, this is just the cork road bed, and then I had some other tricks that I used to now decrease the height off of that track, off the roadbed, to come down to foam ground level and into the switch. And it was working perfectly. Like I said, all the other junk and manifest cars, box cars, tank cars, lumber cars, they were all handling it like a champ. Hoppers, everything was handling it. Even this longer box car back here handled it like a champ. There's one right on the other side of the that blue UMAX container right there. That's the exact length as this one here. And excuse me, it handled it like a champ. Nevertheless, the crux, the meat of my layout, not the meat of it, but the more expensive cars, the nicer cars, they would actually be auto racks, the stack cars. They were not handling this curve too nicely. So I ripped it out. As you can see here from the destruction of the earth, if you will. You can see that there, and I've redone it and replaced this track in. And you know, it kind of gives the layout a little bit of character. Maybe it's just me. Maybe you don't like it. I don't know. But I feel like it gives a little character. I'm not saying that I'm going to keep it like that, because again, this is just the initial ground cover. We will get at some point, if money is well and everything in the world and economy does well for the good old average Joe here, then we can get into more heavily scenic areas of the layout. Nevertheless, I don't want to go on too long because the video is getting kind of long, and I might actually just split this into two parts. I might just actually do that just to split it off a little bit and give it a little bit more time. That way I can make sure I hit everything that I want to hit, because this is your November update. I wanted to get an update into you guys a little sooner, but I wanted to get more signals in, and I still wanted to get more signals in before I put this update out. But it's all good because I got the track in, and I'll tell you, getting this track in, I just felt so good. You know, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I felt really good getting this track in, getting the cars to accept it, not picking the switches or anything like that, not having a hard time negotiating the curves, which this track is really not that curvy. Heck, the inside track here for the DSF lead is more curvy than the yard lead coming off. But I mean, once we get this all scenic, the next step here, I mean, it's gonna be nice. But going forward, the next step for me is to get the signals in to protect the inside and outside tracks. And then I am going to put in a signal for the yard lead. I don't know where I'm going to have that planted. I may have it planted closer back to here, just because if you can have more length on your yard lead, why not? I mean, I could put it way up here, but that would cut in to the space and possibly cut into some scenery. And plus, if I can have it back here, the shunt should be somewhere in here anyways. Nevertheless, folks, that is pretty much it for this update here in November. With the signals in, it does make the layout a little bit more dangerous to walk around because I can't bump them. I think I bumped this guy here. I can't remember if this is the guy that I bumped. But I did almost pop something off of there. And luckily I didn't. So I've been super extra, very cautious walking around and maneuvering around the old layout here. And but that's pretty much it for this one, folks. Hang on. All right, over here at the workbench, I not that it's necessarily important information, but I did get with it wasn't Ed at NCE, it was another gentleman at NCE at the time. Got me squared up with my NCE USB interface so that I can do programming of some locomotives. These are the remaining signals that I needed. I actually have one more on order because the system didn't allow it. I got these from Midwest Model Railroad. Shout out to them. The shipping on this was exquisite. I mean, I placed the order Saturday, either Friday night or early Saturday morning, and it got shipped out the same day. and got some more signals in, and then I got a couple more of these of the signal heads, because a couple of these will be used in making a bi-directional signal. Atlas is in the process of creating some bi-directional signals, but from the most of them that look like they're the single-headed version. And for my layout, I don't need single-headed bidirectionals. I need on one end of it to be double-headed, or dual signal, and on the back side to be a single or double on both sides. And they just don't have that. So to customize it is the only option. I will say this: if you guys would like to see how I customize my signals, I would highly suggest that you let me know, because I don't mind making a video on exactly how I did that. That's perfectly fine. I don't mind sharing that and showing you that. Looking at it now, I kind of wish that I would have shown you guys how I did this one, because this one obviously is much more difficult. But to be quite honest, it was very, very, very simple. It does require a bit of patience and a bit of ingenuity, just a little bit, but not much at all. You just have to have, the right tools and patience, like I said. Obviously some glue, which would be tools, I guess. And you can knock this out just as I did, because again, this is magnet wire that we're dealing with, and it is very finicky. And if you don't like finicky, tiny little wires, this right here could be an annoyance. But oh, by the way, you guys can see that the grab iron is popped off on this one. I did talk to Atlas about that, and I did tell Midwest Model Railroad about it, because when I first got it, I don't know if you guys saw there on the bench, on the workbench back there, there was that piece that was right here. It's in the box. When I first got it, I didn't notice it, and then as soon as I started to unbox it, I saw it popped off, and I contacted them immediately. I told them as long as the signal worked, I don't really care to get a refund or get it replaced, because the signals work. That's just a minor detail piece. And hey, who knows, maybe when the signal maintainer comes up here and he decides to fix the signals, maybe he falls off, and then maybe he puts in a SERP or gets contact of his management or local chairman and says, hey, we need to get that fixed. I don't want to fall to my death and get ran over by a 70-mile-an-hour train. Nevertheless, Bandini DSF, Bandini corner. And this is the layout. Looking all the way across there to CP Amar, CP Winner. Should be able to make out the signals there. Not sure if I showed you, but there are signals back there for CP Amar. I need one more signal to complete that control point, and then but nevertheless, I'll save that for the next go round. All right, folks, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sure you guys can hear the kids in the background playing with their toys. This is that car that I was talking about with a solid drawbar, and it's nice to have that. It adds some variety, but it's also good to have that because you find imperfections that you may want to address before you start balancing and stuff like that. Nevertheless, that is the layout for November. This is your update. I hope you guys did enjoy this. Until next time, keep it on the rails. It's your boy Flash Jones. See you next time.